Alrighty, everybody. Class is finally back in session for the Let's Build That App.com channel. I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope you're ready for today's video. Now, the very last lesson, where exactly did we leave off here? Well, I'm currently inside of our main messages view. We're now able to sign out of the application here. And whenever we do that, we can log back in our application, and you should be able to see something like this right here for your main messages view. All of that code is right here somewhere on the left side. Today's video, what do we want to learn? Well, you see at the very bottom of this application here, the new message button. Whenever I click on this button here, I want to present all of the possible users that I can send a message to inside of the entire Firebase system, right? So for example, I have some other users like the waterfall user inside of this app here. And I want to see this new message page with the waterfall user. And whenever I have these users here, I should be able to click into that and then bring myself into the actual chat log, which is this right here. And finally, you can go back and you'll see the main message view again. So that's what we're going to build out in this lesson. I think for today's video, however, I'm just going to bring up this page here. So let's go ahead and begin on the left side. What do I want to do first? Well, I'm going to hit Control-6 and hit new message button. And that's going to bring me down to this button right here. You'll see it's a plus new message in the blue. And what I want to do is whenever I tap the button, right, we're going to handle the action right here on line 168. And all we're going to do is to toggle a Boolean here. So I'm going to say state var, let's see, should show new, so new message screen. And I'll just let this guy equal to false in the very initial state. And then we will just toggle that guy, and nothing too bad. Just to make sure everything's working again, I'll hit the resume. And then, at the very bottom, I'll hit the plus new button, and nothing's going to work just yet. The Boolean on 170, this is just going to toggle to true. And then what I'll do is at the very bottom here, I can simply use a full screen cover yet again. It's very similar to the last episode. We'll just present some kind of full screen sheet, and I'll say should show, so should show new message screen. You can use nil here, or if you don't want to see it, just remove it like that, hit enter. And this is the new message screen. Okay, hopefully the code here is correct. I will make sure it is right by waiting for that there. I click the new message and you'll see the full screen cover show up like this. Okay, so nothing too bad. Hopefully you guys are more than familiar with this process already. Every time you need to see a brand new modal screen, just use a full screen cover with a state variable like this. All right, so next thing we need to do is we actually need to pull down the users into this screen here. And then we also need this cancel button on the top left, as well as this new message title. So the way to make this process easy is to just simply create a new view altogether. And you can either create it down here in the bottom, or you can create it in a brand new file, which is what I'll do. I'm going to hit Command 1 to bring out this again, and I'll just put it inside of this group here. So new message, you can feel free to name this whatever you want, should be fine. Right here is a new SwiftUI view file, and this will be a new message view. And maybe it's the create new message view, that's probably better. Whatever you want. Again, just make sure the name makes sense for you. All right, so brand new file is created, and always hit resume on the right side to make sure the preview actually works out. More often than not, the preview is gonna probably crash on you, but it looks like today I'm pretty lucky with the preview. Okay, so I hit the play there, and what I'm gonna do for the create new message view is to just mimic this functionality here. And it's pretty simple. All you want to do is you want to use some kind of navigation view. So let's just do this here. So for each 0 to, let's say 10 right here, ID is, I don't think we need an ID for this actually. So num in and text and new user is here. So that looks pretty good. Navigation title. So I think I can use this right here. And what is it? New message, like that. Is that going to work? Hopefully that will render out some kind of title on the right side. And again, if your preview is spinning for a while, just hit a space bar in here. It'll force a reset of the preview, and it'll start going again. Okay, so now that we have this screen here, let's first talk about this cancel button on the top left. So the cancel behavior, you can implement it on the scroll view here. You can use the navigation leading right here. And if you look at the documentation right below, you guys should see that this behavior will be deprecated in the future version of iOS. And they want you to use this toolbar, this toolbar modifier instead. So you can use this if you want. It's actually a lot easier to use, but the toolbar is kind of okay as well. So I believe the toolbar, you'll have to use this one right here, hit enter here, and toolbar group, I believe this is called. Placement.navbar, so leading like that, and then the content here, hit enter, and finally hit button and action that enter, text like that, and cancel like so. And then finally, once you have all this code ready, you'll see your cancel button show up right here. I don't really know why they are deprecating this view modifier, but they don't seem to like it. So, make sure your code is happy. It's always good to eliminate those compiler warnings. So this is what we got to do in terms of SwiftUI 3 in November 2021. Okay, now that we have our cancel button here, you might be asking, well, how do I want to utilize this cancel button, right? Well, let's first take this create new message view, go back to my main messages view here. Currently, if I hit the new message button on the bottom, that button is going to show this text component right here. So instead of doing that, we will use this here, and we will hit the create new message view, and we'll see this screen now. So whenever you're here instead of a full screen cover, you can cancel the actual view and dismiss it like this right here. So dismiss it like that. You can dismiss it really easily using a presentation mode variable. Let me show you how that works. I'm going to go back inside of my create new message view. So I think it is going to work like this. So there is an environment variable called presentation mode, and just type it out like this. The syntax doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but for SwiftUI, you have these environmental variables like that, and you can say wrapped value dismiss like so. And once you have this right here, you should be good. I'll just wait for the preview, and I'll kind of, so preview is right here. Everything is looking a-okay. For this actual preview, we're rendering out this view, right? you don't necessarily need to render that out. You can actually use the main messages view if you wanted to do so. And it makes it a little easier. So click on that. You'll see this, hit the cancel right here. Whenever we hit the cancel, we access this environment variable called presentation mode. And then calling the wrapped value and dismiss on it will just automatically dismiss this modal here. So it might be a little confusing, but it's actually really straightforward to kind of cancel a full screen cover. And all right, looks like we have the first objective complete for our new message screen here. What we have to do now is to actually fetch our users in the system here. So how do we go about fetching our users? Well, if you look at the database, which is here, let me drag the database into view, and here is our database. Under our collection of users here, we have all of our users. So clicking into that, we have fields at gmail.com. We have user 7 here, user 9, we have waterfall 1, and leaves at gmail.com. So we have quite a few users inside of system. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull down all of these users and then kind of decode them inside of my application. This is really easy to do. I'm just going to click on this here. Whenever I have a SwiftUI view like this, and whenever I need to perform some data fetching, I usually create a observable object. And that object will just mimic the name of my view by adding view model at the very end. And then, like I said before, just conform to observable object. And inside of here, you can just say fetch all users, and then right below that, private function, fetch all users like that. All right, now, whenever I fetch all my users, what I really want to do is I want to fill up this array, which is right here. So published, spell that correctly, and var, and I'll just use users as the array. And this array is going to be an array of chat users like this. You can set it to the optional value like that, but you can also use just an empty array like this. So I believe this is a little easier to work with. This way I don't have to deal with an optional. So, now what this means is my view model is going to start off with an empty array. All right, next is I actually want to fill up this array here with all of the users in my system, right? So let's go and do that right now. The way I'm going to do that is to access my Firebase manager and shared and Firestore and .collection. And we have our users collection here, and I might want to close out of that for a little more space. So you can do this right here. For all of the documents under your collection, you can call get documents. Hopefully that makes sense. Hit enter, snapshot is here and error is there. If let error equals error like that, print out. Fail to fetch users like that, and I might as well just integrate the error directly in the message and then bail if that happens. Again, I like to use this published var of error message, error message equals empty string. And then if this happens, I'll just set the error equals that. So hopefully that makes sense. And that looks pretty good. What I'll do here is I'm going to go at the very top of my scroll view. I'm going to say text right here, and let's say test. So Command Option P, you should see this test right above here. And, wait for the preview, click on that. And now we see our test there. Things are looking pretty good. Next thing I'll do is I want to bring back the correct preview on the right side. And once I do that, you'll see this view here. So the next thing I will do is whenever I have my new message view, right, I need to somehow invoke all of this behavior for fetching users. And the way I'll do that is to simply create an observed object var vm equals create new message view model. And once I do that, we can start to see our view show up slowly. Wait for that, and that looks okay. So for the very bottom right, for this test message, I'm simply going to use the error message like that. And you see, I don't have a error message, so that little bit of text has gone away. And if I just do this right, so self.error message equals fetch users successfully, something like that, you'll start to see my message show up inside of the actual preview area. Now, the next actual thing to do is for all of my users inside of this fetch block here, I'm actually getting them through this snapshot there. And if I remember the code correctly, you can call the snapshot, and then you have the documents here, and then you can execute a for each block here. This is actually the snapshot, and that looks okay. And I guess this isn't exactly a snapshot, so I will command click into this right here, or hold the option and click, and you have this right here. So if you click on that, you'll get some document to show up. It's supposed to show up there, but it doesn't look like it's doing it. So I'm going to call this the documents snapshot. And I'm going to click on that and click on that there. Just want to make sure I'm not overriding my variables. So this is a snapshot right here, and snapshot is this guy right here. I believe this has the data dictionary like so. All right, so that looks pretty good. Whenever I'm iterating through all of my documents on this variable here, I can actually create my users instead of here. So what I mean is I can just say users.append, and you can append a new element, and you can init with some kind of data. And the data is actually this right here. So you can use this right here, let data equals that snapshot data, and then just use data here. If you type out your code correctly, this should be fine. Let's see, let data equals that. So this is an optional right here. So I believe this is an optional. So what does it say right here? So must have an optional. So this right here doesn't look like it's an optional. And what I'll do is I'll just paste that here. And now my preview is correct. So a lot of code. Let me get a drink of water. And let's now get back into coding. All right. So what I'm going to do next is inside of my screen here, I'm going to make use of this users array at the very top here. And, you know, during the fetch process, we're just creating our users and appending onto this array here. I can get rid of this message here. And then for my scroll view below, instead of using 0 to 10, I can simply use the users array. So users like that. Now, whenever you're using a for each right here, you need to pass in a hashable or some kind of identifiable array. And right now, users, it's telling you that the chat user class, it needs to conform to identifiable. And the way I'm going to fix that error is to go back to my chat user above. And this guy, you just simply want to use the identifiable protocol. That's what the PR stands for. And then whenever you're identifiable, you need to have some kind of ID variable. So just create something like that. And then this is just a getter syntax. So for the actual getter, I'm going to use the UID for the ID. So that's just this right here. And then, once you have that, you can go back to your create message view, hit Command Option P a few times, and you'll get your preview to render yet again. So instead of seeing like 10 text fields right here, you should be able to see some users inside of your system. So right now we have 5 users stored inside of the database, and that's kind of why we see 5 here. Going back to the for each right here, you can just simply change the number to the actual user variable name, and then right here you can use something like the email. And once you have that, you'll see that your users are slowly showing up inside of your system. So quite a bit of code, but once you have everything set up correctly, you'll start to see things appear inside of your preview. The last thing to do is just pretty much UI code here. And this is pretty straightforward. So I guess I'll just show you how to render out the UI. I'm going to use the SD web image SwiftUI for these images here. And hopefully I can render this out correctly. I'm going to use an HStack here. Web image is right here. You need to pass in some kind of URL. Why don't I close out of that guy for a little extra space here for the string. This is the user profile image URL. And this is resizable.frame. We'll give this a width and height of, 50 sounds like a good value. Height, 50 like that and like that. I think that's fine. So it's always a mystery sometimes why SwiftUI code works and why it doesn't. But as long as you type out the code correctly, you should start seeing something like this. Scale to fill, we'll have this there. After the frame, you want to use something called clipped to clip off the edges outside of your frame. And then finally a corner radius, and just use a really large value to get this circle there. If you want to push everything to the right edge, you can use a spacer. And once you do that, your view will start to look like this here. Finally, you might want to give this a divider at the very bottom here. And once you do that, your view will start looking a little better. And this right here, why don't I just give this the padding of horizontal, or you can use leading if you want, but that's what I have. And this may be padding and vertical like that. Again, it's really up to you to decide how you want to render out your UI, but this is just one very simple trick to render out this screen there. Lastly, if you want to draw this border around your image, you can do that very easily using the overlay. At this point, I'm really used to typing out this rounded rectangle syntax, so it's pretty easy for me. I believe this is the stroke and width right here. So you want to use this one. Black, or I think it's label. So label, and then this is something like 1. So right there, you can see you'll have this circular border around your image view like that. Okay, so that's pretty much all I wanted to show you guys in today's video. One thing that you have to take a note of is, you see inside of this new message view, you have 5 users showing up in this page, right? And you'll notice that the currently logged in user is one of these users here. I can check the user by going back down to the preview and bringing back the main message view here. And I'm currently the user of fields. If I click that, you'll see that fields is showing up right here. And do you really want to be able to message yourself? I know I use a lot of different chatting apps, and I actually like messaging myself so that, sometimes I'll send a link or an image to myself through a chat application. So if you want to have the actual self inside of this list, you can actually keep it that way. If you want to eliminate yourself from the list of users here, you can go ahead and use a if check. So what I mean is this here. So I'll, hopefully I can do this live. So I'm going to say let user equals chat user, and we'll have the data from above right here. And I will say if user.uid not equals the Firestore manager, share.auth.current_user.uid. And so, okay, I'm gonna try to run this now, hit the plus new message, and you'll see if I apply the check of, whether or not the user is myself, then I can append all the other users inside of my array. And yeah, so the current user is no longer visible here. And that's pretty good. There's also a different way of doing this, right? So when you're inside of Firestore, I believe there is a filter of some kind. So filter using, and there's a where as well. So I think you can do like where field of maybe UID not equals the self user ID. I think this actually does work. So that's a good exercise for you guys to kind of dig through the Firebase documentation. Maybe I'll provide that solution in the source code download as well if you guys want to see that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to do for today's lesson. You'll see that whenever I have this new message screen right here, right, I should be able to click on these users. And the way to make that possible is to, for each one of your user elements here inside of your loop, you can use a button. So button and just an action here, and just in case, is that the right word? I'll take that here, I'll paste that here, and I'll remove that. Once you do that, you'll hit the plus message here, and you should see your views again. You can click on that. And I believe this right here, let me see what I want to do. So foreground color, and I'll say color.label like that. You'll see that your labels are back. I think if I just move this below the button, that should work here. So click on that, you'll have a down state right here. Maybe every time you click on a new user, you might want to say presentation mode, route value.dismiss like that. You can guess what that is going to do, plus message, and click on that. It'll dismiss that entire page. And, the thing that you really want to do is you want to dismiss and you want to slide into the chat log. So we'll talk about how to do that in the very next lesson. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. If you guys have comments or questions, do let me know, and I'll try my best to answer them. And I'll see you guys in the very next video. Bye-bye.